about to leave. Already packing, come with me. I'm not.
Hello friends and enemies, welcome back to Happy For Now. It's me, Isabel, here with my Scribd and Hoopla recommendations. I got a request recently to do another round of Hoopla recommendations, and I already had planned a Scribd one, and I realized that most of my titles crossed onto both platforms. If you aren't aware, Scribd is a platform you can spend $9.99 a month on, I believe, and get audiobooks from, also ebooks and comics, which is really nice. And I really like using them to make sure I'm consuming my audiobooks like I usually do. It's honestly part of how I read so much, is the volume of audiobooks I listen to. So Scribd really helps me out in that front. If you want to use my link, it's in the description box. That link will get you 60 days free of Scribd and me 1 month free. You don't have to use it, your choice. I don't think you can get the offer for 60 days unless you use someone's link, just an FYI. This is not like an advertisement for them. I just wanted to share both platforms, like books I've really liked on them, because I feel like we're always looking for recs on Hoopla and Scribd personally. At least I am. So I wanted to share. I also wanted to give my Scribd tips because I've been asked before how I use Scribd and am able to not get throttled on the platform as often as others experience. So first up, let's talk about those tips. The biggest thing I'm going to tell you to do, you need to make sure you are not downloading the book you want to listen to. You need to stream it on Wi-Fi, basically, exclusively. You could stream it from your phone, like internet, but I'm going to tell you that I often find that it skips or doesn't save my place correctly when I do that, so I really do stick to only streaming off of Wi-Fi. Yeah, so I never save a title I want to listen to or that I'm listening to on Scribd. I always go to the history tab and pick up what I'm listening to from there. It will just say continue listening, and I will do that. I have found that this is very beneficial and that I rarely get throttled on my Scribd. I very rarely, like if I do, it's like 2 days before my rollover. So give these tips a try. I hope they help you. They may not. The other thing I want to tell you about is library extension, which I adore. I've talked about it before in another video called Saving Money on Books, where I talk about out-of-state library cards that I have and also things I use like eReader IQ and this extension. So the library extension app will let you check what's on Hoopla, Scribd, and in your libraries. I do think it works for non-US based people as well. So if you live outside the United States, I think you can put in like different countries and stuff. I've just never investigated it personally, so you should definitely check that out if you're interested. But I really like this because then when I'm browsing on Goodreads, on Amazon, on Storygraph, anywhere on the internet pretty much, it will tell me if Hoopla has the book, if Scribd has the book, and if my library has it. And I then personally at least prioritize via that. So if the wait time at my library is really long and I can get it on Hoopla, I'm going to get it on Hoopla. If I've not used up all my Hoopla credits for the month yet. Generally speaking, I try to make sure I spend those every month so that my library can continue to have the service because they see it being used. And then if it's not on Hoopla and it's on Scribd, or maybe I'm out of Hoopla credits, I will go to Scribd. Otherwise, I may just put myself on the wait list. It just depends. You have to make those decisions for your reading life and how badly you want to read something right away. If something is really popular, I do try not to listen to it on Scribd, because I do think the more popular titles you listen to, the quicker you're throttled overall as well. I will have timestamps down below for each genre/age category that I'm going to give recommendations in, and you can jump around if you need to. I'll also have links to all the books down below. And let's get right to it. Let's start with romance. I, of course, have to recommend two of my favorite dark romance series. One is The Wicked Villains by Katie Robert. These are all on audio on Scribd and Hoopla, so everything is on both platforms. I'm not going to keep saying that. So I really like these. They are fairy tale retellings. Your first book has dubious consent, so go in with that awareness. It is dubious consent. They already have a play dynamic set up that you're not necessarily as aware of as the reader, but it becomes very apparent in the book. And that one is Desperate Measures. It follows Jasmine and Jafar, and The Wicked Villains, what I really like is that it's this world with like this really cool sex club situation and a great setup for the rest of the couples. Like you kind of get to see them. There's a really wide variety of BDSM and other kink represented in these books, and it's just really fun. They're really fun. I really love them. I have 2 more left to read, and then I'm done with the series and I'm sad about it. I'm not gonna lie to you, I'm sad about it. Then we have The Initiation, or the Dirty Rich American series by Nikki Sloan, which I have not shut up about since I read them. I went on a like 24-hour bender reading all 3 books in this series. I could not stop the marathon. I stayed up all night and read it. I stayed up all the next day and finished it. I could not stop, y'all. These books are so good. So you're following Marist, who is her dad works for this financial company, and like they're wealthy, and her sister is supposed to marry one of the CEO's son in an arranged marriage situation, but she ends up not being able to, and Marist has to step up and do it, and there is just so much tension. It is so tense. There's so much banana pants bonkers. Like, you find out what the initiation is and you're like, what on earth? And then you just keep reading. You may or may not be happy with who she ends up with. There's like a slight love triangle. I didn't really think it was a love triangle because I just felt like there was no chance for the second love interest of sorts. I felt like he was just kind of there as a proxy of sorts. I would call this also like a dark light romance. Like, it's dark, it's twisted, but you're not gonna read it and be like totally off your game if you've read some other contemporary romances with like mafia or that. But this is like so good. I cannot recommend The Initiation / Dirty Rich Americans enough. Then we have Queen Takes Night by Jolie Sue Burkhart. This is a vampire menage polyamory relationship situation. This is the first book in the series, and I literally finished that book in like one sitting. I could not stop. I need to finish the series still, but I really, really love this book. So we follow a vampire queen who doesn't know she's a vampire queen. She gets found by some vampires. They start protecting her, enter their polyamorous menage relationship. Swords do cross, so that's a treat. And we also get to watch her expand her group of people, and it continues to grow into like an orgy situation as you continue the series. It's banana pants, it's bonkers, it's very bloody. Content warning, tons of blood and blood play. But if you want like something you can't put down that is definitely darker romance, this one is totally it for you. Then we have a very complete pivot to a very like cute and sweet romance and a series I really love. So book 1 in that is in the Girls Trip series by Tracy Livesay is Sweet Talkin' Lover, and this follows a group of female friends from college as they all find love. So the book 1 is about a grumpy mayor and the girl who has to come in from this corporate office and like take over this factory and turn it around. It's like a very hesitant like love story. They're very resistant of each other, and it's very fun to watch them like come together and then why they can't be together and then finding their way together. It's just, it's such a cute book. I really liked Sweet Talkin' Lover, and I think the sequel is just as good, which is called Like Lovers Do. It's also pretty steamy for a like kind of what looks like a classic contemporary in my opinion. Next we have My Fake Rake by Eva Lee, which I also loved. And I just think that the premise for this is so cute. It's a little bit of a bumbling like couple. They can't really like figure out their communication to actually talk to each other about their feelings, but it's 2 nerds in love. They are training him to be a rake so that she can attract this love interest she has, and then lo and behold, of course, he's not the one. It's the one she's been teaching how to be a rake that's the one. And it's so cute, y'all. I love this book so much. I really like Eva Lee's writing. All of this series is based on like 80s movies. This one is Pretty in Pink, I think, and Weird Science, because they're both like scientist nerds, and they're just, I love nerds in love. It is a sweet spot for me. Give me all those cute little nerdy babies in love. Another one I would be like, who am I if I did not recommend, is Ruby Dixon. A lot of Ruby Dixon's audiobooks are on Scribd and Hoopla. I personally listen to most of the Ice Planet series via Scribd and Hoopla. I love those books immensely. I think that they are such a treat, and I can't imagine my life without them. I do need to continue Ice Home, and I've read a good chunk of the Dragon ones. I've not finished them, but like honestly, the Ice Planet Barbarians are my favorite. If you do read these, I want to give a quick warning on book 1 being the most traumatic of all the books. They crash on a not Hoth planet, and the girls were kidnapped by alien men, and they suffer a lot of trauma in the ship before they crash land, and there's like forced oral kind of by the hero. It's a lot. I will say if you kind of like book 1 and you continue, it gets more sweet than like traumatic. Does that make sense? Like, I think her tone as Ruby wrote these, she realized that she wanted to lean into the comedic and like sweet fun parts of the book more so than the like trauma of crash landing on a planet, because that would be traumatic. I really love this series a whole bunch. Then we have Burn For Me by Alona Andrews, which is the first book in the Hidden Legacy series. If you haven't tried Alona Andrews yet, this is probably where I would direct you to start, because the Kate Daniels series is pretty long. Sweep and Peace is also good. It's a little more sci-fi. This is like urban fantasy. So I feel like that's a good starting point for a lot of us who like paranormal. And it's nice because the first 3 books are its own complete trilogy, and then the next 3 books follow a different couple. So this follows Nevada and Rogan. Nevada is a detective, and she is trying to hunt down someone, and Rogan decides to help, hinder, a little bit of both. And we just kind of get a beautiful slow build relationship through 3 books. A lot of no, I don't want you, but I do want you happening, and I always love that. I also think Alona Andrews just delivers such delightful banter, and the combat in this book is top tier for a romance, urban fantasy situation. All right, and the last romance book I have to recommend to you is just a general author recommendation, and that's Christina C. Jones. I will never shut up about Christina C. Jones. I read her for the first time in the last few years, and I am in love. I'm slowly working through her backlist. I adored the audiobooks for the Wright brothers. They all 3 are fantastic. Cannot recommend them enough as a great diving in point for Christina's writing. And I just think she's really funny and also sweet in all of her books, and you just can't go wrong with that. All right, next we have the YA category. I'm gonna go ahead and recommend A Lat's Away by Darcy Little Badger. I read this at the beginning of January finally, and I read it and listened to it, like I switched back and forth. This is a magnificent YA adventure with magic, paranormal, just, it was beautiful. A Lat's Away deserves literally like all the hype in the world, and if you haven't picked it up, cannot recommend it enough. A Lat's Away is trying to solve a murder that happened, and she has the help of her great-great-grandmother who had a horde of ghost dogs basically and animals, and it's utterly magical. Like, I don't know, I was just so enchanted by this book. Then I'm gonna recommend You Should See Me in a Crown by Leah Johnson. This is a sapphic YA romance around homecoming or prom, one of those two. Anyway, she needs to win the competition so she can get a scholarship to the school, and that scholarship like for college, and that scholarship will mean she can go to her dream school that she got into but can't afford, and it's her falling in love with this new girl in town, and it's so soft and sweet. There's a lot of like forced outing stuff happening too, which is very painful, I'm not gonna lie, but it was so good. I cannot recommend this enough. Then I'm gonna recommend a underhyped series, I would say, and that's the Brooklyn Bruja series by Zoraida Cordova. I loved Labyrinth Lost, and I loved Bruja Born, and I need to read Wayward Witch this year. But these follow 3 sisters who become brujas together in Brooklyn at different, like as they turn 16 I think. The first one, we follow a sister who kind of doesn't want her power and tries to give it away, and the aftermath of that. And it's a great audiobook. I think it's really immersive, the world building, and I love Zoraida's writing, honestly, and I know that she's not underappreciated, but I think like we don't talk about her enough, if that makes sense. Then I'm gonna recommend 10 Blind Dates by Ashley Elston. This surprised me, first of all. I did not expect to like this book as much as I did. It had a setup that I was like, eh. So she gets dumped or breaks up with her boyfriend right before the holidays, and her whole family sets her up on 10 blind dates. And it's so freaking cute, y'all. There's like some family stuff happening in the background, and then she's going on these dates, and they're bonkers silliness. Like, it's just very cute. It's set around Christmas, but I think you could read this any time of the year. Next, I'm gonna recommend Sick Kids in Love by Hannah Moskowitz. If you haven't read this book yet, I don't know what's wrong with you. This is honestly one of the best chronically ill representation kids books, YA books I've read. Everyone I know who's chronically ill loves this book. I love this book. This book is just fantastic, and it follows Izzy, and I don't remember his name. So Isabel's rule is no dating. She meets another boy, a boy who is like super cute and also has illnesses, and that she has a chronic illness she's never heard of, and they just really bond over their illness and what it means to be a teen that is chronically ill. And it's just, y'all, this book is so beautiful and I love it. I love it so much. I seriously cannot recommend it enough to you. And then the last YA book I'm going to recommend is Don't Date Rosa Santos by Nina Moreno. This was such a fun book. She is cursed by the sea. That's what they tell her. She shouldn't date, and then she starts dating a boy with a boat, and it's this whole drama about her feeling cursed and her choices, and it does a really great job, honestly, to me, in my opinion, of like exploring like what it is to be a teen and to like family legacy and this family curse. What does it mean? And oh, it's so beautiful. I loved this story. I think it's such a fun listen. It's definitely one you can get through pretty quickly, and I don't think you will be disappointed. You will be hungry though. I will say I did have to go get Cuban food while reading this. Okay, our last category is just general adult books. This is just a mix of some books I like that are on Scribd and Hoopla. So, All Systems Red by Martha Wells, book 1 in the Murderbot novella series. If you haven't read these, what are you doing with your life? I know Mara from Books Like Whoa doesn't shut up about them. Beautifully Booked Bethany doesn't shut up about them. I read them a couple years ago because one of my friends would not stop talking about it, and she was like, you gotta try it. And this is about an AI who becomes sentient kind of and could do a lot of damage, but instead just really wants to be left alone and watch Netflix, or their Netflix equivalent. And it just kind of explores humanity and what is it. And I love it. Murderbot is everything. I really want to reread these this year, and then I want to read the new full-length Network Effect because Murderbot just makes you laugh. It's the best. We're all a little bit of Murderbot inside, I feel like. Next is Binti by Nindi Okorafor. I think I got that right. I probably did not. I've said it wrong about 5 times before this take, so we're gonna roll with it. Binti follows a woman who is the first from her planet to go to this big college, and they have this practice where they smear this clay on their face, and her ship that she's on to get there gets overtaken by an interesting alien. And it's a very quick novella. It's a very great audio. It's a great read. I was blown away. This was like the second book by her I read, and I honestly, yeah, I'm a fan at this point of her. I think her writing, I think her books are super engaging and delightful. Then we've got 2 thrillers I'm gonna recommend. One is Turn of the Key by Ruth Ware. I really liked this. This is like about a house that's maybe haunted, or is it? And I felt like the end had a lot of twists and reveals that I wasn't expecting, so that was very enjoyable to me. And I think that overall it was just a really interesting story. It's also told from the point of view of the person who got arrested for the crime, writing letters to a lawyer to try and get them to defend them. So that's an interesting setup. Then we have Miracle Creek by Angie Kim. This was my first like law courtroom thriller, and I really enjoyed this. This was a story unfolding about what caused a bunch of murders in a small town in Virginia at a special medical treatment with a hyperbaric chamber. So basically like the chamber explodes, and it's clear it wasn't an accident. So we have to unfold what happened, and it's just really incredible. And it's a lot about family. Do you protect your family in a situation like this? Do you let the secrets out? And it just was like, honestly, such a kind of terrifying reflection of how some people are about certain medical treatments and how they think that they are the cure-all for something and they're not. And this just really reflected that in a lot of ways, and it was very, very interesting and intense. All right, y'all, that's all my recs. Drop a headphone emoji or something music related audiobooky in the comments down below. If you made it this far in the video, links to everywhere you can find me in the internet are in the description box down below. And I will see you in a few days with my next video. Bye.
Really asking, we'll get away to a place where we don't know.